Okay, in this video I'm going to take a look at something I don't do too often, and that is a criminal offence, the criminal offence of harassment. The whole question of online bullying, hassling, harassing, pylons on Twitter, stalking and so on, all these issues are serious issues which have come to even more prominence there in the last while, because obviously people have very strong views about things, and debate on the likes of Twitter and Facebook and elsewhere can be fairly heated, fairly impassioned and fairly vigorous. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also a couple of victims of stalking who featured in the media there relatively recently, and they were the victims of stalkers, and the stalkers were convicted. But I think the ladies in question then were part of a campaign to bring in a specific stalking offence on the Irish statute books. I don't think the government is going to do that, and I think the government's view is that Coco's law, which was brought in 2020, December 2020, to do with the publication and sending and dissemination of inappropriate images of a person and so on, that type of thing is dealt with in that particular piece of legislation. That's according to the government. And then you have the Non-Fatal Offences Against a Person Act of 1997. Section 10 of that deals with harassment. The harassment definition in Section 10 of that particular act is very widely drafted, very broad, and it covers a wide range of unwanted, hassling, interfering, annoying behaviour, like being contacted by telephone and so on, where it's clear that you don't want to be contacted, etc. It's useful to have a look at the actual act, look at Section 10 and see exactly what it says, because it's a serious or potentially serious offence. It's an offence that can be prosecuted as a minor offence in the district court or on indictment in the higher courts, the circuit court and the higher courts. And the maximum penalty for harassment under the Non-Fatal Offences Against a Person Act 1997 is now 10 years imprisonment. That'll be a rare enough situation, I suppose, but having said that, it is on the statute books, and it is an offence that carries obviously a serious penalty. As I said, it's useful to have a look exactly at what it says, just to be sure and to be clear that it might be something that you need to have a look at if you are the victim of some sort of harassment or hassling behaviour. So let's take a look. Okay, as you can see there in Section 10, subsection 1, any person who, without lawful authority or reasonable excuse, by any means, including by use of the telephone, harasses another by persistently following, watching, pestering, besetting, or communicating with or about him or her, shall be guilty of an offence. And it goes on then to define it further. For the purposes of this section, a person harasses another where A, he or she, by his or her acts, intentionally or recklessly, seriously interferes with the other's peace and privacy, or causes alarm, distress, or harm to the other, and his or her acts are such that a reasonable person would realise that the acts would seriously interfere with the other's peace and privacy, or cause alarm, distress, or harm to the other. So obviously the offence of harassment is fairly broadly drafted, and as you see down at the end there, it says then a person guilty of an offence under this section shall be liable A, on summary conviction, to a Class A fine or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 months, or both, or on conviction on indictment to a fine or a term of imprisonment not exceeding 10 years, or both. So if you are the victim of harassing behaviour or hassling behaviour, there is remedies out there for you. There is civil remedies and there's criminal remedies. The criminal remedies will be, obviously you go to the Gardaí and they will prosecute if the evidence is there. They'll prosecute under the section 10 of the Non-Fatal Offences Against the Person Act 1997, and you also have that new law, the so-called COCO's law, the Harassment, Harmful Communications and Related Offences Act 2020. So, you know, if you are a victim and you are being hassled or harassed or receiving phone calls or communications that put you in alarm or cause you distress, and you've made it clear that you don't want to receive them, well then there is remedies, as I say, open to you. There's the civil remedies, private nuisance and suing for other headings, for example, negligence or causing harm and that type of thing. But the serious offences would be the criminal prosecution, obviously, would have a serious implication for the person who's causing you the hassle, who is harassing you, and if they're convicted, obviously that carries with it its own implications. Hope you find this video useful. If you do, I'd appreciate if you gave it the thumbs up down below. Thanks a lot.